All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Melanie Usher with the Arizona Telemedicine Program and the Southwest Telehealth Resource Center. Welcome to today's program. As you connected, your phone or your computer, microphone, they were muted right now. But today you're going to have the opportunity, your mics will be open so that you can interact with our speaker today. We will also have the chat function available. If you don't want to speak, you can type your questions in or your responses. She's going to have some very interactive um, uh, activities going on today's program. We also have a post-webinar evaluation. Please go ahead and fill that out. We are being recorded, and this will be on our website later for you to review if needed. And you'll see the URL for our previous webinars. Don't worry about writing that down right now. I'll send that in a thank you email for everybody that joined us today. We have a standard disclaimer. I don't need to read that out loud. You can read that. And again, so please check our websites for upcoming webinars and events. Jan Ground will be doing a third. This is a three-part series. She'll be doing a third one next month, and you'll be able to sign up for that if you haven't already. And again, your opinion is valuable to us. I will be able to provide certificates that you attended. You can respond to my thank you email when I send that out that you would like a certificate. And without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and let Jan Ground get started here. She is Kaiser Permanente. She's retired. She's also our Colorado liaison with the Southwest Telehealth Resource Center. And she's going to be leading you through a workshop, Leading People Through Change. Let me go ahead and stop sharing here, and we'll get her slides up, and she'll tell you a little bit more about herself.
I'll have the slides on in just one moment.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Nice to see everybody, and thank you to those who gave feedback after the last session. I definitely really honor people's feedback. I've been leading innovation and virtual care telehealth for a very long time, way before COVID in healthcare. And I learned the hard way initially, as I told you last time, that the hardest part of motivating others, the hardest part of leading change or innovation or virtual care is motivating people to do things differently. And I would even say that I chose to be a physical therapist a very long time ago over occupational therapy because I wanted to be hands-on. So I haven't practiced PT in a long time, but imagine how it would feel for me if I was asked to do care virtually, which many PTs do now successfully, but I did it for hands-on, and many physicians feel that way. Obviously, they had to do it during COVID, but not every doctor wants to do it. Not every clinician wants to do it. And again, we're going to talk about telehealth today, but I'm going to say that leading people to change, this could be applied to anything you're trying to do to motivate other people to change professionally or personally. So we do, as they just said, I am going to encourage you guys to participate. You can participate in the chat. I've got the screen up. And then also I would encourage you to interrupt me and ask a question or answer a question if you didn't understand something I said. And I'm just going to encourage you as an extrovert myself, try not to dominate, try not to be the only one to ask questions. That's my request. So let's go to the next slide. Thank you, Mike. And change is hard for everybody. I just told you about me as a PT. Physicians did not go to medical school to provide care on a screen. They did not go to medical school to look at screens all day. My first request to you is to write down in front of you, a telehealth project you're currently working on or leading or involved with in some way. If there's more than one, and it could be remote monitoring, could be video visits, it could be texting, email, scheduled phone visits, any of those, the one that you expect the most resistance. And if you're not involved with any of them, just write down a telehealth project that you think might be hard. I'll give you 10 seconds. Is anybody willing to share with the rest of us what that project is? Anybody, verbally?
If you would like to make a comment, please unmute your microphone.
Oh, thank you.
And then when you've concluded, please remute your microphone.
I'm worried that if nobody responds that nobody's there or nobody has a project. So I hope that one or two people will share what is a telehealth project you know about or are involved with that you think might be hard to implement.
I can answer.
Thank you.
I represent an organization that's on the verge of establishing a telehealth capability for a mental health clinic, and we're just beginning the work to get that set up and to establish a recruiting process to recruit people to work remotely.
Great. How do you say your name?
It's Michaela Casserly.
Michaela. Thank you very much. Maybe one more person that you're either involved with or you're watching that you expect to meet have some resistance. I thought someone was trying to talk. Is there someone that?
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
This is
Yes, I
Mackenzie
can.
from Nationwide Children's Hospital.
Thank you.
Something that we are beginning to explore in the very, very early phases is virtual nursing. So I think there has been a lot of hurdles and barriers, and some resistance even with the idea of that. So I can anticipate that that would be difficult.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I hope other people will contribute and future questions. Okay. I just want to remind you that all of us resist change in healthcare, outside of healthcare. I'm not going to ask you to share with me, but we've all resisted change in our life, and it's really hard. Let's go to the next slide. I shared this one last time and that last one too. One of the most important things is deciding if you're going to do it through commitment or compliance. Commitment means, compliance means, I'm getting confused on what they mean. One of them means, I'm going to tell you to do this and you're going to do it starting tomorrow, period. The other one means, this is what I'd really like everybody to do. And we're going to go through a process of learning about it, learning why we're doing it, figuring out what's wrong, and making it the best we can make it. The second one is much slower. It's the blue one. It's much slower and it's much more successful. And again, I have many stories that I could share with you. So you decide, you want to go slow or go fast. If you go fast, especially if it's a big change for people, you are more likely to have failure. So let's go to the next one. So this is the whole, and the next one, go to the next one too. This is the whole workshop that I've done a lot of times. The change approach, what we just talked about, commitment or compliance. We went through last time, what is the quantifiable problem you're trying to solve that is important to those that you want to do something different and important to those who are the executives determining how you're going to spend the money and what's the goal, what's the quantifiable goal that you're going to achieve and how long. That's what we did last time. We're not going to do how hard will this be? We're not going to get through all of this. Today, we're going to go through develop and maintain sponsorship and surface and manage resistance. And then the last session in November will be focused especially on reinforcement strategy. So let's go to the next slide. And the next one. I can't emphasize this enough. So again, when I implemented video visits at Kaiser Permanente before COVID, I worked for the Colorado Permanente Medical Group, KP in Colorado, and I worked for an executive physician, and Bill Marsh was my boss. I'm still friends with him. He's retired. If I didn't have him to help me, there is not a chance I would have had any success. And we had a lot of failure anyway before COVID because no one wanted to do it, and there wasn't a quantifiable problem to solve in most people's point of view. So let's go to the next slide. Just go through some of the role of the sponsor. And again, only the sponsors can do this. And we're going to get to, so who is the sponsor? And as I'm speaking to you, think about for your project in telehealth, who might be the sponsor? And then we'll talk about how high you have to go. So the biggest thing is they need to dictate the business case. They need to say, my boss needed to say to me, we are doing this for this reason. It was not up to me as the project manager. It was up to him or her, in this case, him. And expect cascading sponsorship. This is from the top down. So what happens if I had an executive vice president who was my boss and was the sponsor. What happens if the people that reported to him, let's say the chief officers of all the different specialties, what happens if 4 of them from 4 different specialties did not support the concept? We had a lot of issues with that. It is up to my boss to fix that. And if he can't fix it, I can't fix it. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an executive. We need the top sponsor to be able to work with the next level down, the next level down into the front line to be able to make sure we have sponsorship at all the levels. Allocate the resources. Obviously, that's a lot about money and about people like me to implement this. And we had a lot of people to train all the physicians in doing video visits, a half an hour each, one-on-one. It was up to him to make sure that they had the money to pay those people. We're going to talk about rewards and consequences next time. And the barriers are humongous. We're going to talk about resistance today. If you don't work to service resistance, it will go underneath the world. There will be resistance. No one will do it unless you work on surfacing it. So, anybody want to comment on this slide? Virtually, verbally. Take yourself off mute. Any comments? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have any experience with this? What happens if I call on you? Might you be willing to answer? I'm going to try. I see someone named Monica. And if you're not there or you don't have an answer, it's just fine. I will not be angry. I just thought I would try calling on someone. Any comments on this slide or what I just said?
Well, I'm working on a project now. It's just an expansion program of what we already have for our ICU with one of our satellite facilities. And the 3 physicians, there's one that's always pushed back, not wanting us to implement at their facility. But she was the one 3 months ago that begged us to do it for a long weekend so that because there was a provider out of the country, there was a provider in the hospital, and that just left her. But now she's pushing back again as we are looking to roll out full time. And so we've set up a meeting with her cohorts, her 2 cohorts, and our medical director to hopefully discover and alleviate any fears that she has. What she has verbalized is that she does not feel that our remote ICU providers follow her quote plan of care, and they mess things up. So we are going to be working to chip away at that, even though we have proven to her in the past that we do work well with them, but she is still our roadblock. So that's
Monica, thank you so much. It's just an example, you guys. I'm sure everybody has examples. And so what I would suggest is the sponsor you just said, I assume you would consider the sponsor the medical director. You don't need to answer me now. And make sure when you're seeing resistance or even before you're seeing resistance, that medical director is 1,000,000% behind providing care virtually for ICU. Because if he or she is not, nothing's going to change. This person will not help you. Obviously, I don't know who you're talking about, so no offense or anything. And then you might need to go higher. So that's what sponsorship is all about. I would have brought that person in immediately. And I'll give you an example. We had to do use cases to start all this a long time ago. And for the urology department, the best use case the leaders could come up with was erectile dysfunction. We do not need to lay hands on. I'm a physical therapist. I know nothing about it, except I know what it means. And so then I went to work with the urologist, the whole group. The leaders were there. It was their idea. And several, more than maybe 5 out of 20, were really worried that if we do erectile dysfunction treatment virtually, we're going to miss cancer diagnosis. And that's an example where there's no way I could respond to that. Me as a project manager, not a physician, not a sponsor, not someone that they respect that knows anything about their world. I said to them, let me get Bill Marsh, the sponsor of this work or the leader of this work, to talk to you guys. And if he couldn't convince them, then it would have failed. So that's just an example. Let's go to the next slide. And then so sponsor is you can look him up on LinkedIn. The best boss on the planet for me was Bill Marsh. He would say to me, for everything I did for him, but including leading virtual care, this is what I want to happen. And of course, I adored him and I would do anything for him. I would say, I can make that happen. And then I would say, this is what I need from you to make that happen. And the most important thing always with virtual care, but probably true with everything, is when I find resistance, I'm going to work to service it. Can you please be there for me, especially among physicians? And if he had said no, I would have said, we're going to fail. I mean, 0% chance, I know this, and you guys know it too. 0% chance that all doctors are going to do this. And so if you're okay with success being 5 physicians out of 800 doing it by next year, that's fine. But that's what I need you to help me do. And, there were other things. I probably said things like, can you commit to me if I text you to get back with me within, I'm making this up, 4 hours? And he always did. And if you don't have a sponsor that can help you, especially manage resistance, but meet with the docs that wanted to hear from him, not me, you're going to fail. Anybody want to comment on that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have you ever experienced it? Ever? How about David? David Tomsich. Any comments? And no comments is fine.
Thanks. I have no comments.
That's fine. Thank you, David, for responding. Anybody have a comment that you could share with me that you're thinking as you're listening to me? Am I crazy? Does this make sense?
I
Any
have a comment.
experience with this? Thank you.
It's not in the context of telehealth, but I've been a project manager for a long time, and I can tell you that if you don't get your management, your sponsor, to really make sure that they want to make it happen and then back you when you need it, then any project, no matter where it is and what field, it's going to fail.
So you've had some experiences like me. Anybody else that we haven't heard from yet? Anybody else have any experience with this? Okay, I'll keep going. So let's go to the next slide. And so my opinion is, and I have, again, a lot of experience, don't go any higher than necessary. It depends how big the change is. And when I say how big the change is, everybody on this call has a different opinion of how big implementing video visits is. Some doctors, some physical therapists would say, I could start that overnight. Just train me how to do it and I'll do it. Some people say, I'm never going to do it. So it's all over the board. If you decide you are simply, and that's a quote, this is a joke, you're going to implement this in the allergy department and you 100% sure that all 10 allergists can't wait to do it, then you probably could simply, nothing is simple, have the chief of the allergy department be the sponsor. However, if we decided that we're going to implement this across all outpatient specialties within a year, then the chief of the allergy department obviously is not going to do it. What about the chief of all the medical specialties? Obviously not going to do it. What about the executive medical director of operations? Probably that's high enough, but it might be the executive medical director, highest of all. And what I'll point out to you is, if one of these is missing, so let's go to the next slide, and we're almost done talking about sponsorship. Let's go to the next slide. So what happens, no, the one before that. What happens if one of the reinforcing sponsors, so let's say this is the medical director of surgical specialties for Kaiser Permanente, Colorado, is not in favor of it, it's not his or her priority, they're not going to do what it takes to be a sponsor, then you have to go to the next level up. But I always say don't go any higher than you have to or you need to, because we're all busy. And if we ask the executive medical director to be the sponsor of every single project that goes on in the world, there's no way he or she's going to do a good job, and they're not going to have time, and they're going to ignore you. So you don't want to go any higher than necessary. The other comment I'll make, and this is a really hard one, is what happens if your highest level sponsor leaves or changes jobs? And I went through this. So you had full support, full sponsorship for whatever you're trying to lead, video visits, and then that executive position or whatever it is moves on to another organization, moves to another region, is no longer my boss, is no longer the sponsor. You need to start over, because if you have a sponsor in charge in that same position who's not in favor of this, or it's not just not in favor, but it's not a high enough priority, you will fail. Any comments? Anybody want to tell me about, I assume you don't want to share a horrible sponsor you've had because this is being recorded. Anybody want to tell me about a great sponsor you've had and what made him or her so great, or a great sponsor you think you will have? I would love to hear from someone new. Claire, what do you think?
Hello, I was just gonna chime in actually because I
Thank you.
feel for at least our program with virtual nursing, our executive sponsor is highly involved. She was the one that got our grant approved, so we were able to, investigate how we're going to roll out the project, and from start to finish, she was there supporting us. So I do agree with that. It's very important to have that buy-in from your sponsorship, first of all, and the support from start to finish.
Thank you, Claire. And one more question for you. What would have happened, or what will happen, if she had left? What would you have done?
The fact is, it was co-sponsored by another executive who left. So it was nice that they do have that co-sponsorship and she was
Okay.
able to take it on. So yeah, I forgot to mention that, but it indeed happened to us.
So great if you can have two sponsors. Just be careful. If one is over surgical specialties and one is over medical specialties, and one moves on, you're going to have trouble. Anyone else want to make a comment or a question? You can agree or disagree with me. Anyone else have thoughts about the importance of sponsorship and losing it? Okay, let's go on. Let's see. I'm looking. Oh, it's almost half over. Let's go on to the next slide. We're now going on to resistance. I hope you all understand and agree with me that sponsorship is important when it's a big change. And I hope you agree with me that clinicians moving from in-person to online, phone, email, text, video is a big change. I understand we've all done it because of COVID, but I also know the use cases by physicians has gone way down now, and I don't blame them. I'm not mad at doctors. That's not why they went to medical school, to look at screens half their day. It's not why they went to medical school. And a lot of them are worried about missing diagnoses. I'm guessing we have physicians on this call. Do we have any physicians on this call that might want to comment on what I just said? Any physicians? Does that mean we have no physicians? Okay, I'll leave you alone. Okay, so let's go to servicing man resistance. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So this is something that I learned it the hard way until I learned it the easy way, which is what I did. If you do not service resistance, it's going to go underground. They're going to sabotage what you're doing and you're not going to know about it. So It is inevitable. Again, I'm not blaming anyone. I resist change too. And all of these things on the left side are true. You're touching on something important. It's not how I was trained. I don't want to change. I like the way I do things. And I really want to emphasize this is not a sign of disloyalty. It is not about poor performance. This is natural. And I can't emphasize enough. Every person in this room has resisted change before, every single one of us. Sometimes we do it nicely. Sometimes we don't do it nicely. Sometimes we leave our job, but it's really important to service it, to manage it. So next slide. Go ahead and read this to yourself. I can't say it any better, and I would encourage you to share this with the sponsors. It's important to service resistance. Next slide. And this is obvious. I mean, if you're telling me next week we're going to write with black pens instead of red, or we're going to have, let's see, something more relevant. We're all getting new stethoscopes. I don't think we're going to get a lot of resistance. If you're telling me starting tomorrow, every single visit is going to be done by video, we're not going to see anyone in person, which happened during COVID, obviously, or for a lot of people. Huge resistance, and just keep that in mind. I will also just remind you that how disruptive a change is to any of us is going to differ between every single one of us. And you can probably predict, if you know your frontline workers well, whatever that means, you can probably predict who's going to resist, but not completely, because you might have someone who's never resisted anything that now is really upset about this, or what Claire just described of, she seemed like she was all in favor of it, and then she went against it. Okay, next slide. And this is just another picture of what I've just said. Let's go to the next slide. So first I have a slide that says reaction to negative change, and then I'm going to do one reaction to positive change. Some changes are positive. It still doesn't mean people are all excited about it. So negative change, you can read this to yourself, but people are going to be stunned. They're not going to do anything. Then they'll be in denial, and then they will be angry, and that's the highest intensity. I ain't doing this. Don't even think about making me do it. And then when I say bargaining, sponsorship's getting involved. We're starting to learn what's making them angry, what would make it easier or better for them, what's a problem they might have that this might solve. And then they're still not all excited about it. They're a little worried. I've never done care by video. I'm making this up, obviously, but I'm still worried. And then they go to depression. And eventually, as they learn more and more and more, most people will get to acceptance. And then let's go to the next slide. And now this is to positive change. So even things that are positive, it's a lot easier. You still see resistance because I don't want to change and you don't want to change. But it's a lot easier and the time is a lot shorter to get through it. You still want to surface the resistance, make sure they're up to date on what's not quite right that they thought was going to happen. Like, no, we're not going to have you do every single visit by video, or you don't have to do it from home, or you don't have to share an office. I'm making this all up because maybe they do do it from home to save money. Maybe they do have to share offices, but you can service their resistance and just make sure they know what the truth is. And by the time you're done going through it slower than faster, when I say informed certainty, they're very comfortable because they feel like they know exactly what's going to happen. And you see there's an arrow to the bottom right. You really want your resistance to be overt, not covert. You really want to encourage people, not get mad at them, to let you know, and the sponsors, what are you worried about? Because you're not the only one worried. So please, 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 please share with us. So now I'm going to go to another slide, and then I'm going to ask you to share again. Next slide. There are many ways to service resistance. So managed by wandering around. I mean, this could be me or my executive physician sponsor walking around the allergy department. He was an allergist. This could be a box that you say, please provide feedback. It can be anonymous. to what we're trying to do with video visits. There's a lot of ideas here. It could be surveys, could be one-on-one interviews, especially if they trust you. If they don't trust you, when I say they don't trust me, I didn't have doctors that didn't like me. I just certainly had plenty of physicians, and I don't blame them, that thought, why am I not hearing this from a physician? You're just a physical therapist. I wasn't offended. And I would say, that's fine. I'll get Bill to come talk to you, and that's fine. And other guys or women were fine with it. They're willing to share with me. And I said, I'm going to share this with Bill. And there's a lot of ways to do this. So I want you to think about right now, and then I'm going to ask more people to participate. Why don't you start out? I want you to think about, how will you try to surface resistance when we want to surface resistance? Please put it in the chat. I'll see that first. Please. I want to see at least 5 responses. Thank you. I don't see any yet, and I'm really hoping that this makes sense to you. Find a way to surface resistance. Pick one and just put it in the chat. Thank you, Mikhail. Mikhail, am I saying it right? Small group meetings, good. And Claire, survey before and after implementation, good. Let's see if I can hear from someone I haven't heard from yet. Anybody? Please? Okay, let's say there's about 20 people in here. Attendees. Wonder if I know anyone here. Okay, I see there's another person named Jan. I'm also Jan. Jan, any idea what you might do to service resistance when you're trying to implement something new? Telehealth. We want to focus on telehealth. Looks like you're off mute, Jan, but I don't hear you. Are you trying to say something? Okay, that didn't work. Let's try Katie Piper. How might you try surfacing resistance? What would be easiest for you? Okay, that's not working. I'm going to try again. How about Eve? Ani Inkwa. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. How about Eve? I'm not succeeding in getting people to tell me what they're thinking. This is not so good. How about, does that, oh, Gail. Gail from Kaiser Permanente? I'm having trouble. Okay, I'll shut down the participants. Okay, I'm going to go back to Jan. I can't get unmuted. Mike, is there anything you can do for Jan to get unmuted?
One moment.
What'd you say?
Oh, I said one moment.
Thank you. Thank you for trying, Jan. While he's trying, Jan, I think it might be a mic issue. Okay, Jan, why don't you put in the chat, what might you do to try to surface resistance, to try to find out what resistance is going on that you don't know about? What might you do? And I'd love to hear from the person whose name says Kaiser next to it too. I would use surveys, okay? How about one more person? Just put in the chat. I'll give up on the verbal. One more person in the chat. Suggestion box, okay? Can I hear from one more person, please? I'll look up the participants again. Let's see. How about Monica? Monica Weibel. Oh, good. Talk to your team, informal discussions. Thank you, everybody. That's enough. Thank you. So, do me a favor, one more favor up in the chat. Literally just put in the chat, yes or no. Have you ever done this before? When you're implementing change, telehealth or otherwise, but we're obviously focusing today on telehealth. Have you ever worked to implement change? I mean, to service change, service resistance. Sorry. Perfect. Okay. So I see that people don't disagree with me. Thank you. So anyone who's not putting yes in there, thank you for responding. That's all I need. You have service resistance. Is there anyone on the call that has not experienced this before? And believe me when I tell you, most leaders in the world have not done this. Most. And it's a really, really important skill. Obviously, I think so. Is there anyone that would say, no, they haven't had experience with this before and they really want to try it? Anybody? Does that mean that everybody has experienced this before? Everybody? Is there anyone that has not tried this before? What about Mel and Mike? They're STO, they're leaders of this whole thing. Have you ever tried service resistance in your world?
I'll go. I would say yes. I think my approach has generally been to meet individually or in small groups and to try to elicit concerns and then, try to find workarounds if possible and appropriate, or to try to make try to convince those that are resisting of why this is a good idea, and try to make sure that they understand how it works and have the training to be able to actually be successful in adopting whatever those changes are.
Thank you, Mike, so much. So I can't emphasize this enough. If you take nothing away from today, I think this is really important. And the interesting thing is, sometimes it's really easy because you find out the resistance is based on misinformation, like just based on what Mike just said. And this is not going to happen. I'm exaggerating to make a point. Suppose they think starting tomorrow, we expect that half your visits are going to be done by video and we're not going to provide any training. And then you can tell them, oh my goodness, of course we're not going to make you do that. We are going to set up one-on-one training and you will not be expected to do any video visits until you feel like you've gotten the training. I'm just making that up. But in fact, this is not telehealth, but I remember there was a project to change the computer systems in the emergency room in a hospital that Kaiser Permanente is related to in Colorado. And they were going to change the whole computer system because the doctors weren't using it. And then I suggested to them, you might want to find out whether or not using it. And needless to say, this is a while ago, but this is a learning. When we asked them why they're not using it, they said because they don't want to use computers. So they were about to spend a lot of money to change the computer system because they never found out why doctors weren't using it. That's an extreme example, but there's a lot of in-betweens. And then there's a much harder one, which I've already talked about, of I don't want to do video visits because I was trained in medical school to see people in person, and I chose to be a doctor to be in a room with patients, and that's what I love to do. And the best you could probably do, first of all, I would get my executive physician sponsor to meet with these doctors, have a doctor-to-doctor conversation, and make sure it's a doctor that those resisting trust. I mean, there's people that we like and there's people that we don't like, and the better you can do of having it come from someone that that person trusts, the more likely it is that they'll listen to that person. And then the person that's talking to the resistor, might say, I understand that, you really much prefer to see people in person. And what we're learning is, again, I'm making this up, doctors, that we're not getting care to a lot of people because they can't get in, either because they live too far away or because they don't have transportation. I'm just making this up, but that might be something that would change their minds. So you have to kind of deal with the resistance based on what kind of resistance it is. The easiest one is if they have misinformation. I hope that makes sense to you. Any comments or questions? Thank you, everyone that said yes. Most you guys can't see this, but I can. In fact, I should probably tell you that people said that the British people said I would use surveys. I think a suggestion box is another good idea. Informal discussions, talk to your team. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people said yes, they have experience with servicing resistance. So 2 more slides on resistance. Let's go to the next one. Thank you. So these are good things. So if you do it well, all these things will happen. You're going to create rapport where they trust you and you trust them. I love the third one. You're listening to the issue because we're all going to have different issues. Some are worried about missing a cancer diagnosis. Some are, I don't want to do this because I want to be able to touch the patient. I want to be in the room with the patient. I don't want to look at screens all day. I would suggest, don't say, do you like video visits or not? Just say a much more open-ended question of, tell me what you're thinking when I bring up care by video. What's going on in your mind? Make it open-ended questions. And obviously the next one says, and you can imagine that this is something I have to work really hard at, of listen most of the time and just be the one that occasionally responds. Hopefully you can say, I totally understand. But you're listening to them most. And let's go to the next one. Okay, these are pretty obvious for me. Again, I've learned the hard way a lot of times. You're not going to do anything with a hammer. Do not argue. 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 And I love the second one of, when I say deal, that's even a little too strong, but work with the person and their personality and who they are and what's important to them as compared to, I don't want to look at video all day. You know, work with the person on what is it personally that might bother them. So, of all those people that said, yes, I've services resistance before. Again, I would love for you to say it out loud. If you can try to take yourself off mute, I would love it. But if you don't want to do that, if you could put in the chat, tell me what you've done that's been most effective at surfacing and managing resistance. Tell me one thing. I'd love to hear it verbally. How about all those people that said yes? How about Michaela and Claire?
Answer.
Thank you.
We ended up after one-to-one and small group meetings, our problem was we were moving an engineering group from one location to another about 400 miles away. And there was going to be tremendous family disruption. And there were solid business reasons why we needed to do it, but we didn't approach it that way with them. We basically sat down in small groups to find out the things that they needed that were going to be the biggest impediments. And then we have ended up having one meeting with the families. So we had people bring their spouses and older kids if they had older kids in. And we just sat there and we just had a roundtable meeting with them. And eventually we got all but 4. We had about 32, 33 engineers. We had all but 4 agree to do the transfer. I thought that was pretty good.
That is a fabulous story. You could teach this session, I bet, Michaela. What do you think? I think you could. Fabulous story. And I see one in the chat. Thank you for answering. I have Ellen that says, reassure them that adequate training would be provided for all end users. Yeah, I mean, we don't expect that they're going to know how to do this by themselves. And by the way, all the Kaiser Permanente physicians, and I'm exaggerating to make a point, were trained before COVID. And 97 out of 1,000 did one video visit before COVID after we trained them all. And then it turned out, I'm sure a lot of them had to be retrained, most of them, and that was fine, whatever it takes, but at least they had some basic training. Anyone else? Claire, what are you thinking? What have you done to service resistance that's been successful or a failure?
Started typing it. So to me, it's transparency is big on the why of your project, why you're moving the way you're doing it, and all the accountability when it comes to who's doing what, and if there are any items that we need to pivot around because of the feedback that you're getting from the team. So overall, I think somebody else chimed in. It's more about the communication of the why and where you're headed and everything in between.
Fabulous. I'll read what you wrote. Transparency on the why and the status of the implementation and accountability for everyone. It is so important. And the problem is that not everyone has the same point of view of what success looks like. So the executives want to make more money or want to have higher retention of members at Kaiser Permanente. The doctors want to have better clinical outcomes. And if they're not aligned, it's going to be really hard. I mean, suppose we had data that show that if we have plastic surgeons do their care virtually other than surgery, they get worse outcomes. I have no data on this. I'm making this up. And yet it shows that we better retain members. That's a problem. And obviously, I'm a clinician too. I'm much more worried about the clinical outcomes, but we do need to retain members in order to keep in business. And so if the executives and the frontline staff, including physicians, have different goals and you can't align the goals, it's almost impossible to implement. And I have stories where I've tried and it hasn't worked. They're either going to go underneath and not do what you're asking them to do, or you're going to fight it. And I can't say I'm mad at them. And then Ellen wrote, communication, accurate information, and inform them early on the changes. Okay, let's go to the last slide. And that's all I have for today. I'm hoping Mel and Mike and I talked about maybe next time, not only allowing you guys to speak, but to see your faces. Like, let's just do this together. Because as obviously I heard a lot from Michaela and Claire that you guys have a lot of expertise in this. You can teach this to each other and to other people and colleagues of yours as well as I can. I can just get it started and then we can all share. So I would love to hear, we have, maybe 5 more minutes. Anyone have anything to comment on? This is what I learned the most. I disagree with you on this. I really tried it and it failed. I'm going to try, and you guys are always welcome to reach out to me and let me try to coach you. Leading change is my greatest expertise, and I've only done it in healthcare. Would anybody else be willing to share what you're thinking about anything? Please?
I just wanted to comment that I think several aspects of successful program, getting to a successful program implementing telehealth, that stories both on the provider side as well as on the patient experience side, were sometimes difficult to gather those, but basically having those examples that are really illustrating the why in the context of the care delivery, that will resonate, I think, with the providers, when they see that, oh, this patient benefited because they, otherwise would not have been able to, maybe attend this appointment or to advance their care, if they hadn't had this virtual option for this particular component of their care. So I think just gathering those stories, and then also as you begin implementation, making sure to keep track of metrics that allow you to demonstrate the benefits of the program in various ways. I think those are really important to ongoing success.
Thank you, Mike. And I would add, again, you've heard me say this over and over today of, positive and negative. you might get negative feedback. You might find out it's not working. And I had led innovation before I specifically focused on virtual care and telehealth, but we had hypotheses of if we tried this, this would happen. And sometimes it didn't, or sometimes it made it worse. And in fact, I've been leading telehealth for a long time. And I've been asking forever, please show me the data. And if you guys have the data, I'd love to see it, that we now have better clinical outcomes for people that live in rural areas, that live, 200 miles from the closest primary care physician. I'd love to see the data. And if we don't have the data, are we simply making care more expensive by implementing all this technology? That's my thing. So even if you find out that it's not working, collecting data is really important. So we got feedback from the last time. I hope I listened well to it. The feedback means the world to me. I see that we've gone down from 22 to 16 and a lot more registered. I hope this was helpful. And again, the next one is, how do you reinforce the change when someone tries to do it and whatever happens, happens, but how do we reinforce it? Remind me, is it November 11th, Mike? I forget. Let me look it up.
And we do have one
November
more.
s-
We do have one more comment, Jan.
Thank you.
Failure can be turned into a win with the information gained. Absolutely, you can learn what to do and what not to do, and maybe how to make those changes.
I can't agree with you. I have a sign up in my room that says something along the line. I haven't read it in a long time. Fail first, fail often to succeed. Honest to God, that came from Jan. I totally agree with you that I used to have a sign also, and I'll read the other two too. I used to have a sign a long time ago when I learned literally innovation and all kinds of things like walk-in immunizations, not scheduled. What can we try on Tuesday that won't harm a hair on a person's head? And so we just wanted to find 3 physicians, making it up, but that's probably what we did, to see if we try this with 3 physicians that really want to try it, will it work? And if it doesn't work, we stop. And so if you can fail small, it's a really good thing to do. Jan, thank you for that comment. And then Claire, and thank you for saying very helpful, Jan. I'm glad, Jan, I like Jan. For those implementing and supporting virtual nursing, do you have a dedicated IT team that supports the technology directly? Can anybody answer that? And I'll read it because only us can see it, right, Mike? And Monica responded back, Claire, yes, we do have dedicated IT. It took many years to convince IT that it was necessary to have dedicated IT to work with us and have the ownership of knowledge. Oh, you can see the questions. I'm sorry. I thought you couldn't. I'm
That's all right.
sorry.
That's all
Shut
right.
up, Jean.
But still reading it out loud is being able to hear it is great information too. But yeah, so we're getting close to the end. Thank you everybody
Well
for
done.
joining us today. And again, we do have another series coming up. It'll be at the end of November. You can go to our website. I'll have that in my thank you email to everybody that joined us today, if you haven't signed up already. And again, Jan, thank you for presenting today and sharing this information. It's very timely. We've got a bunch of comments that are talking about that as well. And so without any further ado, we will go ahead and end today, and we will see you next month.
Nice to be with you, everybody. Bye-bye.